guys, and actually this particular lesson, if you will, what we're doing, and this is number 10 on our 13-week trek here before Josh comes back and teaches. And what we've been doing is basically, and for the young folks, high school especially, these are the type of classes that we're putting on video. We're going to have them available, and when you get to that point where you're thinking of getting married, if you're still at our church, you'll be going through all 13 of these as part of your premarital counseling, if you will. So you say, well, I'm not planning on getting married, or I'm married and I don't need this. Well, we all need it, folks, because these are our principles that whether you're married, not married, whether you're, we all have friends, we all have folks that we have to relate to every single day. And these are biblical principles that will help you as you deal with people. Believe it or not, most of us, and I'm sure you haven't had this issue, but at times I actually get in conflict with somebody, and we do. Relationships do have conflicts associated with them. We don't like when it happens, but it happens at times. The other thing is, when we're looking at these principles, there are things that we can look at that will help us avoid conflict. I am not a confrontational type person unless I have to be. I was in law enforcement for 32 years, and that's where you have to be confrontational at times. It's part of what you do. But I never enjoyed, especially in church work, getting confrontational, or families where you have a confrontation. It's not fun. Okay, most of us don't like going there. And the problem is, even though we don't like to have confrontation with friends and relatives and schoolmates and spouses, we got what's called the sin nature. And the sin nature just doesn't know how to respond at times, and we do wrong. So again, we're going to go through several things this morning which will help us. And here's the topic for this morning. Do your parents and family support your friends, relationships, marriage? And I got the big word, beware. All right? So what we're going to be looking at from a biblical perspective this morning is when somebody is, and it doesn't matter what age you are, and again, we got a good group of high school young folks here. Your parents, your friends are definitely going to have very specific things that they're going to want you to follow. We have a lot of folks in here, you're adults, we have some senior citizens. It's like, well, I don't need this. It's like, that's for young. No, this is for me. It's for you. It's for every single person that has a relationship with another person. And I'm talking platonic here, not necessarily a marital type thing or a dating type thing. Every time I deal with anyone, it's a relational issue, okay? And it could be a relative, could be a friend, could be a deacon, could be anyone, any of you, right? So we all have these relationships. We all need to look at biblical principles as to how to live like the Lord, if you will, in these things. So let's start out with a couple of questions. And some of you will be able right away, you're going to go, yeah, I've been there, done that, or had this done to me. Mom, dad, friend, relative, they look at you and it's like, I don't like you hanging around, and bam, they hit you with a name or a group. You ever been there? And no, we can't talk as parents about our child's dating. No, I don't know where that came from. I knew you were going to say amen, and that's why I did it. Anyway, I don't like you hanging around whoever the person is. And they get upset about it. That person is a bad influence. And they'll, of course, insert the name. Now, by the way, you say, oh, yeah, that's what I do to my kids. Has anybody ever done it to you as an adult? I forbid you to go out with. Now, this is more of a parental type thing. I forbid you to go out with. Okay, so we're looking at this. When you hear those kind of comments, how do you respond? And we want to look at that from a biblical perspective. How about a few more? Do you think you should be spending time with, and here comes the name. This could be spouse to spouse. It saying, listen, you've been going out with so-and-so after work, and okay, you been there? Or it could be so many different things. So put it into something that relates to you. You know I only want the best for you. And maybe you would like to consider that blank's behavior truly is not Christ-centered. Now, folks, that's going to get my attention, okay? And it's like, all right, is who I'm spending time with, is it God-honoring? And here's where we got to be real careful now. Can you win somebody to Christ if you don't spend any time with them? Can you? That's pretty tough, right? So here's the careful tightrope balance that we're going to go through today. How do I relate to somebody who's unsaved and potentially a very ungodly person, yet I'm trying to, if you will, share the gospel with them? Is that a good motive? Absolutely it is. So there's this careful balancing act. It's like, all right, so I need to relate to the unsaved. We went through it over and over this morning. God's mission is for us to reach the unsaved people. That's the mission. So that means we have to, if you will, spend time with folks that aren't here at Union Grove Baptist Church, or it's really hard to win them, okay? I'm looking at one individual, has a prison ministry, goes to, if you will, those that have severe issues. They're in prison, they're jail, house of correction, whatever it might be. And these are not people you probably want to make your best friends, but you can't give them the gospel. I've given this illustration many times. When I was at another church as an associate pastor, and I'd walk down the halls, never talk to anybody, never do anything, and get in my office and get ready for whatever I was going to teach. And I read a book, and again, I don't necessarily endorse him. I don't not endorse him, but John Maxwell, who's a leadership a guy who writes on leadership, was a pastor at one time. And I read his book, on his basic book on leadership, and it basically said this: do not ask for someone's heart until you first give them your hand. In other words, you cannot, people are not going to trust you just because you come up and say hi to them. They don't trust people. People don't trust others. And quite frankly, that's probably not a bad concept. So if we're going to try and talk to somebody, if we're going to try to befriend someone, if we're going to try and share the gospel with someone, you got to kind of be nice to them first, or you're not going to build a relationship. Most folks truly get saved after you start a basic relationship with them. On occasion, you can walk up to somebody cold turkey, they'll trust Christ, they'll get saved, but it's not the norm. Okay, so something to think about. Yes, we need to be kind to all people, but making this particular person your close friend may cause you to compromise who you are as a Christian. All right? Again, I'm planting seeds here. We'll see how to deal with this. Let's go to the different side of things, on a positive side. I am so happy you're spending time with, and they name the person. It's like, man, that's a good person. They're just, that's good people, and I'm glad you're spending time with them. All right, and then obviously if that's what you're hearing, you're like, okay, good, I'm in good shape. That young lady, man, brings out the best in you. Is Trevor in here today? Where you at, bud? There you are. Trevor, my boy, sitting next to Miss Abby. How many of you went to the bee farm yesterday? Was it good? I heard it was awesome. Yeah, very good. Abby, my daughter-in-law, they have her parents and her and all their family have Indian summer farms. They raise bees and honey and all that good stuff. But when and they've been married, getting close to a year here, getting close. But when Abby came into Trevor's life, we wanted to know if she was going to be a good influence on him. I was going to say the jury's still out, but I won't do that. No, she's an absolutely sweet, lovely, godly young lady. And how many months is it now? 10? 11? Valerie, tell them how long they've been married. When I see Trevor, when I see Abby, you know what I see? Smiles. I see Trevor being giddy, acting goofy around me. He's happy. You know why? Because she's a good influence. And they're in church. That's a good influence. They want to both live for the Lord. That's a good influence. All right? I gave you a good shout out, buddy. Don't forget that. All right. That young lady or man brings out the best in you. All right, so that's what you want to hear, right? Now, let's start looking at things from a biblical perspective. Friendships, acquaintances, those that you spend time with. Here's what happens many times, and here's why we're going here, and especially when we look at it from a marital issue or a premarital issue, and it falls into the issue of just having relationships with other people that you're not planning on dating or getting married to. What is one, when we've been going through the top issues that cause divorces among married people? Because here's what happens. Mom, dad, relatives, whomever, you get married, and again, for those that aren't married, I apologize, but this is how all these things, God uses the family as a picture of how he deals with people. All of a sudden, you have husband and wife that end up, obviously they get married, and you know what happens then? All of a sudden, there's all this outside interference trying to tear the marriage apart. You say, perish the thought, I've never heard of such a thing. Yes, you have. All right? So what we're going to look at, for those of us that have young people that are married, for those of us that are trying to help others in their relationships, it's like, what is God's biblical perspective as to what we should be doing with young people that are married, having relationships, and it could be male-male, female-female, platonic, okay, we're not going into that world. Let me share a couple quick illustrations. Tabitha, you back there? Good. It's not there. I may shock a few of you right now. So Tabitha's dating Richard Truchon. Good guy. I actually had the privilege of leading him to the Lord before they started heavily dating. So she brings him home, and I brought him into the backyard. He thought I was going to, I don't know what he thought. He still claims I had a gun with me. I did not have a gun. But I did have a sword. My Bible. And we sat down, and I started, he expected, the birds and the bees kind of talk, and it's like, no, we're going to have Jesus and you talk. And shared the gospel with him, and it was a great time when he trusted Christ, and it's like, well, you always think as a parent, did he just do this to try and get on my good side, and blah, 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 and no, he got on fire for God and started serving the Lord right away, and still is to this day. He's in Bible school and working on a master's in Bible. But here's the thing. After I knew they were both saved, and by the way, you say, well, should a Christian date a non-Christian? Well, if you have a father like me who's going to grab that person right away and give them the gospel and they come to Christ, that's between you and mom and dad. But here was the deal. After Richard proposed to Tabitha, after going through a bit of a ringer with me, which is a previous lesson, which I'm not going to get into right now, bottom line was I felt they were both ready to get married, and of course, as being a pastor, I married them. And here's what I told Richard and what I told Tabitha. Now, here's where I'm going to get your attention. Before I married him, I said, Richard, here's the deal. It's a no-return policy. No return policy. You will learn to love her, to care for her, to supply for her needs. She will never be allowed back in my home. Once you put that ring on her finger, she's yours. No longer mine. I will still love her. I will still love you. But if you guys start fighting, if you start fussing, if you have a hard time, I will be happy to help you. But let me make it clear. It is a no return policy. See where I'm going, folks? All right. You say, well, man, that's harsh. No, that's Bible. Okay? No returns. You take her, she's yours. Now, I know some of you right now are thinking, well, Brother Rich, you know we've gone through multiple issues. We've been divorced. I've been remarried, all these different things. Folks, what I'm looking at is the perfect scenario, okay? If you've gone through those things and you've gone through trials and troubles, and now we look at it, and here's a hard thing for folks to get a hold of, because we like to hold stuff over people. What did the Apostle Paul said about things that he looked at in the past? What did he say we should do with those things in the past? Forget them. Forgetting those things which are behind, I do what? I press on like an Olympic athlete. That's exactly what he's saying. All right? Now, for those that have been through those things, you know there's repercussions. You know you've got to deal with certain things, and we leave it at that. And that's why we have counseling, and we help people, and if they go through these things, we rebuild lives and try and get them going again. So what we're looking at here is the perfect scenario. All right? When the scenario breaks down, because we are sinners, we do tend to get things off kilter. There are ways to rebuild things, but that's another story, another topic. Let's look at Psalm chapter 1 for a few minutes and start to go through how we avoid some of these pitfalls. Blessed is the man, and we can, and of course, man being man or woman here. Blessed is the man or woman who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly. In other words, don't hang around folks that are going to tear you down, nor stands in the path of sinners, nor sits in the seat of the scornful. By the way, you want to know how to wreck a relationship? Just keep bad-mouthing somebody. You say, Brother Rich, this is church. We don't talk like that. Remember when we started this series, and I'm blaming it on John Seacosh, my good friend, who said, Brother, you better be real. I said, okay, we'll be real. I will tell you this. In the last 9 weeks, I've had more people in the counseling office than I've had in the last year and a half. You know why? Because it's getting real. All of a sudden, it's like, Pastor Rich, I'm struggling with whatever it is. And bam, we have to attack it. So folks, when we get real, it increases my job load. But you know what? That's good. And that's what we're here for. Blessed is the man or woman who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stands in the path of sinners, nor sits in the seat of the scornful. In other words, stay away from bad relationships. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law he meditates day and night. Folks, if you are in doing exactly as Psalm 1 says, you're in the Bible day and night. Before I go to bed, Valerie can attest to it. My Bible comes out, goes on my bed. I like the prone position when I'm reading at night. I'm sitting up during the day. I take this out in the prone position. I read some, and I fall asleep eventually. If you're doing that, if you're reading the Word of God, you're walking with God day and night, and you come across someone who is not a godly person, you're going to be able to talk to them without losing it, without being tempted to go in the wrong direction. At least you'll have a much better propensity to stay on the right track. But it's a discipline. Now, if day and night you're with the wrong person and talking about the wrong things instead of keeping your mind centered on Scripture day and night, you're going to have a problem. That's why God put this in his word. Verse 2, but his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law he meditates day and night. He shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water that brings forth its fruit in its season, whose life also shall not wither, and whatever he does shall prosper. What is the key ingredient here? It's the ingredient we don't want to do. We don't want to discipline ourselves to open up the Word of God and read it. We don't want to discipline ourselves to pray. And God said to pray without ceasing. You say, Brother Rich, do you pray without ceasing? No. You say, why not? The Bible ordered you to. Because I've not yet attained. I will tell you this. Even though I don't pray without ceasing, time after time, day after day, driving, writing, family time, in my office, whatever it might be, try to remember, Lord, I need your help on this. Lord, would you help me through this? Lord, I have this situation. I need your help on this. And yes, but if I pray without ceasing, it's like I've not yet attained, but boy, it's there. constantly being reminded. And I tell you, when I do something, my wife said I shouldn't use the word dumb. But when I do something dumb, I immediately say I didn't spend enough time asking the Lord what to do here. I did it on my own will, and that's not smart. All right, let's move on. Verse 4, the ungodly are not so, but are like the chaff which the wind drives away. Now, some of you are like, what in the world does that mean? Okay, now those of you that are farmers can relate to this more. What is a chaff? Okay, back in the day, you put the wheat on big giant pile of wheat, right? You get the old pitchfork, you throw it up in the air, and all of a sudden the chaff, if you will, blows off and blows away. And that's what God's saying here. The ungodly are not so, but are like the chaff which the wind drives away. It's not good. It's not profitable. It's not the good fruit, if you will, of the harvest. Therefore, the ungodly shall not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. For the Lord knows the way of the righteous, but the way of the ungodly shall perish. What's he saying here? He's saying, listen, if you walk with me, you spend time with me, you say, yeah, pastor, preacher, blah, blah, blah. We hear this every Sunday. You know, I got a life to live. There's 7 days a week. You get me 2 hours a week maybe, and the rest of it's my time. Yeah, that's the way a lot of us live. 2 hours a week, and the rest is my time. And God says, day and night, night and day and night, night and day. Are you praying without ceasing? Are you walking with me? And then we wonder why we have troubles, because we get 2 hours a week, and the rest of it is like, whatever, it's my time now. All right, now I'm trying not to, I'm overreacting to the issue, but do you see where we're going here? Do you understand why we go through struggles and hard times? Because if we simply read Psalm 1 and say, yeah, I get that, I'm going to do it, or at least try to do it, change your life. All right, Proverbs 27:5, value of good friends. Open rebuke is better than love carefully concealed. Faithful are the wounds of a friend, but the kisses of an enemy are deceitful. What's he saying? All right, I think I got my composure. I'm going to tell you my first Jimmy Deyoung story. All right, you ready? So, some of you had met at Brookside when I was there, and Jimmy Deyoung was coming to town. I was into prophecy, loved prophecy, and I was going to meet Jimmy Deyoung for the very first time. Valerie, you back there? I'm getting the sun in my eyes here. Yeah, okay, she was there. So, I'm like, I talked to the pastor. I'm like, Pastor, I really want to take Jimmy out to dinner. Can you arrange it so I can take him out? And he's like, well, sure, as long as you're paying, good to go. I said, I'll pay. So, man, I'm excited. It's like, man, I'm going out with Jimmy Deyoung. He's one of my heroes. So we get to the restaurant, and a few of you might have heard this before. Sit down with Jimmy and Judy, his dear wife. And if they're watching, love you guys. And Jimmy never met me before. And he sits down, and he's like, well, brother, so I hear you want to be a prophecy teacher. Is that right? I said, yes, sir, that's correct. Well, okay, so tell me about the 3 human strands. I'm like, 3 human strands? Well, sir, I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. You call yourself a person that wants to preach prophecy and you don't know what? I mean, he is blasting me in public, in a restaurant, and I'm paying for dinner. I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, sir, I don't really know what you mean by that. He said, oh, brother. He's like, you gone to Bible school? I said, yeah, I've been to several. He said, what did they teach you there? I mean, he is just reaming me. And I'm in the presence of my hero, reaming me. Finally, he said, listen, brother. He says, I have a Bible school called School of Prophets for Liberty, or Louisiana Baptist University. You need to sign up for that school and learn what real prophecy is instead of whatever you've been taught. And he took me to 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 32, which says, and give no offense to the Jew, nor to the Greek or Gentile, nor to the church of God. The 3 human strands of the human family, Rich, are unsaved Jews, unsaved Gentiles, and Christians. Dummy. Oh. That's how I started off my love relationship with Dr. Deyoung. I did go to his school. I got a PhD through their program, and I love him dearly. I've read everything he's written, spoken, whatever. But he got in my teen's grill. He got in my grill. And he made it be known, all right? Open rebuke is better than love carefully concealed. Faithful are the wounds of a friend. Well, I gave him a lot of latitude. He wasn't really a friend yet, but he became a dear one, all right? But I trusted him, I knew him, and he smacked me a good one. But then we became the best of friends because I knew he was a friend and he wanted the best for us. He who rebukes a man will find favor afterward than he who flatters with the tongue. In other words, are they sincere? Are they telling you the truth? 1 Thessalonians 5, therefore comfort each other and edify one another just as also you are doing. Paul says, listen, if you're a good friend, if you're doing right, if it's a good relationship, you will bring edification to the other person. What does that mean? It means exactly what I talked about with Trevor and Abby. It's a relationship that helps each other grow in their love for the Lord and for each other. That's a good relationship. If there's fussing, fighting, feuding, you walk away mad, you're instead of rejoicing in the Lord, you're ready to say some words you wish you would not say, that's a problem. That's what he's saying. 1 Corinthians 15, do not be deceived. Evil company corrupts good, and the King James word is communication, New King James habits. In other words, you hang around those that are ungodly, not walking with the Lord, it's going to have a bad influence on you. He's stressing the importance of good friends. Psalm 26:4, I have not sat with idolatrous mortals, nor will I go in with hypocrites. I have hated the assembly of evildoers and will not sit with the wicked. Pretty strong words. Again, now the balance. This is talking about making close friendships with those who are rejecters of Christ, and they're bringing you down. And mom and dad watch us, and they say, hey, son, I've seen who you're hanging around with there. That's not a good group for you. There's a lot of us that have said that, right? And it's because you hate your child that you're trying to hurt their feelings and make them feel like they're being punished, right? No. It's because God said, I love you, here's what you should do. And we look at this and say, here's what I want for my child. I don't want you hanging out with the alcoholics. I don't want you hanging out with the drug addicts. I don't want you going out and partying with them. I want you to be nice to them. I want you to be willing to share good things with them. But I don't want you hanging with them. Valerie's made this statement many a time. And I agree with her. Says, you know, young people need to be home by midnight at the latest because no good thing happens after midnight. How many know what I did for a profession for 32 years? Yeah. Say what? Okay, I'll work on that concept. And I worked third shift on purpose. You know I worked third shift when I was on the street as a deputy? Because that's when the action is. It's when the drunks come out. It's when the drugs start going out. It's when the gun carriers start coming out. All that fun but really, really bad stuff. When do the drunk driving accidents happen? Rarely before the bars start closing at 2. On occasion, you get a straggler that comes out early and smashes up. You start at 2 o'clock when the bars close. And then you start, as a cop, having fun. Pulling these people over so they don't kill the good folks that are still out and shouldn't be. By the way, can I give you a little advice? Don't ever drive in the fast lane after 10 p.m. Never. You say, why? Because the drunks get on coming the wrong way and they always choose the fast lane. Now, if there's an exception to the rule, do not sue me if they're in lane 2 and you're in lane 2 and get hit. By a rule of thumb, you never drive in lane 1, the fast lane, at night because here comes the drunk, bam, catastrophic results. All right, enough. I got to move on. A violent man entices his neighbor and leads him in a way that is not good. Man, our culture, video games, MMA, martial arts, mixed martial arts, boxing, football, violence. We love it. We pay for it. We're obsessed with it. So that's right, Brother Rich. I love it. A violent man entices his neighbor and leads him in a way that is not good. Folks, we are so culturally indoctrinated for violence. We are. Now, you say, well, God was violent. Yes. The Old Testament was violent. Yes. The New Testament's full of violence at times when we write books. Yes. You say, well, then we should be a violent society. No. 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 They shall know us by our what? By how strong we can punch somebody? Now, I'm not against fighting. I'm not against boxing. I'm not against mixed martial arts. You say, well, maybe you should. No, I'm not going there. The issue is, when we as a culture, and even as a Christian culture, believe violence is just the best thing on earth, we got a problem. Now again, young men, they like to get into it. They like to show their strength and all that kind of good stuff. But if you can't walk away with a handshake afterward, you got a problem. Okay? Before I got saved, I had my own share of fights. And I would come home and Mom would go on her bed, as I've told you before, and she'd cry her eyes out about, what am I going to do with my wayward son? Again, I'm not opposing, and so don't make a blanket statement. Well, Pastor Rich said you shouldn't do whatever, and you put whatever label you want on it. You go ahead and have fun with sports. Not against it at all. But if you go to school the next day and some guy says something, it's like, I don't like that, you take him out, break his neck, break his arm, whatever, because you got mad, that's a problem. Make sense? All right. Thank you. Where there is no counsel, the people fail or fall, but in the multitude of counselors there is safety. So mom or dad or a friend or a relative, they come up to you and say, hey, what are you thinking you're doing? And you're offended. Like, whether you can say it or not, you're like, stay out of my life. It's my life. I want to do what I want to do. And all of a sudden you have one person, two person, man, what are you doing? What are you thinking? Why are you doing that? Why are you hanging around these people? And we can say, I'm my own man or woman. Fight it. I'll do what I want to do. Yeah. God says you got a problem. Okay? By wise counsel you will wage your own war, and in a multitude of counselors there is safety. The righteous should choose his friends carefully. That's God's wisdom now. For the way of the wicked leads them astray. Proverbs 12:26. He who walks with wise men will be wise, but the company of fools will be destroyed. When I was in high school, young folks, there's a individual there named Tony Custis. He was a retired postal worker. He's about 80 years old when I met him in youth group. Did you catch that? 80-year-old youth group worker. I hung around Tony. The other kids hung around the young youth leaders. They partied, had fun, do it. I hung around Tony. Tony Custis. I say he was 80 years old, retired postal worker. He took me under his wing. I started preaching at Pacific Garden Mission as a teenager because my 80-year-old youth worker said, hey, Rich, you want to come with us to Pacific Garden Mission? How many of you listen to Pacific Garden Mission Unshackled? Yeah. That's how I got my start preaching, because of an 80-year-old youth worker. I loved him dearly. He's with the Lord now. And he took me under his wing. And I spent time with this godly man, and he helped form my life in high school. A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. A man who has friends must himself be friendly, but there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. My 80-year-old Tony Custis. My 80-year-old Dr. Jimmy Deyoung, until he decided to leave me today. Ointment and perfume delight the heart, and the sweetness of a man's friend gives delight by hearty counsel. All right. We're almost out of time. I got about 6 minutes left. I'm going to jump. I've got a ton here, as you can see. But I want to get into the last section here. See, this is all on friendship. If you want the notes, let me know. Qualities of good friends. A true friend should help strengthen your own biblical values. Proverbs 27:17 explains it this way. As iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. But the word also warns that bad company corrupts good character or good communication, which we looked at 1 Corinthians 15:33. Bottom line is choosing good friends will keep you out of jail. Choosing good friends, having good relationships as young people may result in a very good marriage. Choosing good people, friends, will result in you not going in a wrong direction, not ending up ruining your life, not ending up in a bad place. Relationships are very important, folks. We're relational people. Who you hang with makes a difference. That's why we do so many fellowships here. That's why I look down at Bev Bowes and says, I'm feeling a potluck dinner coming on. I am. Why? Because we need to sit down with each other. You need to get your friends or friends like you can find here at Union Grove Baptist Church. Other good folks that want to live for the Lord that you meet from other churches. That's who you want to make your closest friends. They're an alliance. They're the team. When you go to I watch the Olympics. How many watch the Olympics? So here's how it goes down. So you've got 4 people on each relay team in swimming or running or whatever it might be, and each team members get together. You know what they do when they first come out? They look at the other teams, and what do? Yeah, stay away. Stay in your own lane, literally. What do they do after the game's over? They grab their flag. Woo, we won. They don't grab the other person's flag and say, oh, yeah, I want to help you show off your country. No, it's a team sport. Now, they may have a little camaraderie afterwards. They may fellowship a little bit. But, folks, when they're in the game, it's my team and my team only, and we're going to fight till we win. That's exactly how we need to be as God's people. You've got to be on with God's team, stand with God's team, getting the right counsel, doing the right things, and then after we're walking right, after we're basically in the winner's circle doing the right things, then we may walk over to the opposing country and say, you know, you guys ran a pretty good race. Let's go out for dinner. And let me tell you about my country. See what I'm saying? All right. Good friends enjoy the same type of activities, or at least are willing to participate in each other's interests. Well, she's so pretty, I want to be with her. She hates everything you do. Prettiness wears off. Oh, he's so handsome, I just love being around him. He hates everything you do, hon. It's not a good match. Get away. But he's so good looking. That's what my wife tells me all the time. But she's not talking about me. No, she's talking about my son. That was a bad one. Anyway, there are some people you just connect with immediately, enjoy their humor, their style, their personality. You'll respond better and enjoy your friend more if the two of you mutually like one another. Don't go after looks, don't go after whatever. If they're not a person on the same side, avoid it. All right, let me go here real quick. I got 3 minutes left. Secular piece here. For the Huffington Post, according to a 26-year longitudinal study that looked at 373 couples, a husband having a close relationship with his wife's family, catch this, decreased the risk of divorce by 20%. Very interesting. Gets along with mom and dad. Now here's the opposite one that just blew me away. Same survey. However, and I don't know why this is, a wife having a close relationship with her husband's family increased the risk of divorce. I'm like, that's a shocking statistic. According to the study's researcher, psychologist, and Professor Terry Orbuch, wives should maintain boundaries with their in-laws, and husbands should remember to take care of their in-laws and treat them as important. Now, I looked at that, and just like you, I'm like, what? So what's the point here? Caveat, 2 minutes. Abusive, violent, criminal behavior cannot be ignored. All right? What we're talking about here, I'm putting that in on purpose because there's people that believe they are forced to stay in a relationship, that are getting beat up, that are have violence committed against them, horrible acts that are committed against them. It's not a good relationship. Say, what if they're married? It's not a good relationship. Say, what do you do? I will not tell you the answer without hearing the entire scenario. That's when you call up the pastor and say, Brother Rich, I got a problem. And then we work through it. But violent, abusive, criminal behavior cannot be in any relationship. Understood? Okay. Intrusive in-laws are upsetting to your spouse because he or she believes that your parents are invading private issues that should only be talked about or decided by you and your spouse alone. Second, your mate views your unwillingness to stop these intrusions into your family as a betrayal. I got so much more. I can't keep going. So here's where we're going to end for today. I gave the illustration very much on purpose when I talked to Tabitha and Richard. And I made it be known I have a what? A no return policy. So, when my children who are married, unless they come to me for counsel, or unless I would see something that just absolutely I know is going to be catastrophic to them, my mouth stays shut. Say serious? Dead serious. When somebody puts the ring on, and there's one verse I wanted to get to, from Genesis. God told Adam and Eve, you shall leave mommy and daddy and cleave to your spouse. Mommy and daddy no longer have jurisdiction over a married couple's life. That's Bible. It's Genesis. Leave and cleave. You say, well, Brother Rich, is that hard to do? Of course it is. I have so much more experience. They need to know my counsel. But if they don't ask for it, I believe the French word is fermer la bouche. Keep your mouth quiet. I wish we had another half an hour, but we don't. We'll finish up next week. Young people, you have talked. If you want to hear the rest of the story, you'll have to talk to your leaders. All right, a lot of heavy stuff again? Of course. But we're got to keep it real. Folks, this is the way when you walk into church, and I promise this is it. When you walk into church with a smile on your face, I want it to be a real smile because you're actually enjoying life. The things that we've been going through the last 10 weeks are things that will help you enjoy life if you'll apply them in your daily walk with the Lord and with each other. I love you folks, and I mean that. I'm trying to help you. You say, Brother Rich, you've stepped on my toes. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt your toes, but I did mean to help your life. Father, thank you for your love for us. Thank you for these dear folks that are here today. Thank you for those that will watch the tapes in the future. And Father, I pray that you would help us to be so cautious with relationships. I pray that instead of looking on the outward appearance, that we'd look on the heart. I pray that we do things that are honoring to you. I pray that you'd help us day and night to spend time in the Word of God so that every single thing we do might be bathed in prayer and bathed in your Word, and that you'll lead us in the right direction. Now, Father, if there's changes we need to make, I pray that you'd give us the ability, the wisdom, the Holy Spirit to help us do those things. And Father, if we are walking in the right way, then Lord, I pray that you'd help us to continue along that right path. Now, Father, dismiss us with your blessing. Thanks for all that's taken place today. Thanks for those who trusted Christ. We rejoice in that. And Lord, help us to live for you this week and fulfill your mission, which is to seek and to save the lost. In Jesus' precious name, amen. Thanks, folks. Have a great week, or hopefully we'll see you tonight at 5 as we talk about being an alive Christian. God bless you.